Now, yesterday I went to see the new movie Godzilla King of Monsters, which was overall pretty enjoyable, though not a perfect movie by any stretch. And before it, there was a trailer for the movie Hobbs and Shaw, which I had completely forgotten was coming out because I've kind of lost interest in the Fast and Furious franchise over the years. I loved the first one, but they've just gotten increasingly ridiculous as the installments have gone by. Anyway, the trailer reminded me of a genre of movies that has been around for, well, as long as I've been watching movies, and one that was very popular in the 80s and early 90s when I was growing up, that being the action hero genre, which are movies that are, or were basically super strong, muscular guys like Arnold, Stallone, Van Damme, Lundgren, and so on, who take down dozens of bad guys for one reason or another, a type of movie where the plot only exists to serve the action and to get us to our next big fight scene. And if you're maybe a bit younger and missed the glory days of that genre, the Expendables movies were part parody and part homage to this type of movie, and sum them up quite well, I feel. Because, for the most part, other than a few exceptions, the genre has faded away, and what's left of it today has, I guess you could say, evolved a little bit. And today's action hero equivalents oftentimes are less brute force and are instead a bit more intelligent and tactical. The Taken movies with Liam Neeson come to mind as an example of what I mean. And by now you're probably wondering, what does any of this have to do with the Batwoman trailer and the Terminator Dark Fate trailer, both of which, especially the Batwoman trailer, have been met by a fair share of criticism and downvotes, just like this video will be met by a fair share of criticism and downvotes, because this is always a tricky topic, and even when trying to discuss it rationally, it usually angers at least some people who think you're a sexist pig just for bringing up the topic. Anyway, so while I was watching that Hobbs and Shaw trailer yesterday, which was ridiculous, I couldn't help but wonder what people would say about it if the two main characters in it were women. Now, mind you, the question probably popped into my head because on our way to the theater, my fiance and I were discussing the Batwoman trailer, and she said something rather interesting about it, that she would have liked the trailer much, much more if they just changed a few lines in it. And at the end of it, instead of the Batwoman saying in regards to the Batsuit that it'll be perfect when it fits a woman, she had just said it'll be perfect when it fits me. And if instead of her saying she's not going to let a man take credit for a woman's work, she just said she's not going to let Batman take credit for her work. And in my fiance's opinion, and mine as well, both of those changes would have just made her sound more badass and sure of herself instead of something else. Finally, my fiance went on to say something that many are saying these days, that not everything needs to make a statement. Sometimes entertainment can just be entertainment, and when your trailer is more about pushing an agenda than pushing the actual show, it's probably not going to be worth watching. And clearly when you watch the Hobbs and Shaw trailer, or any action hero movie in the entire history of the genre, it's just about mindless entertainment, because no one would take you seriously if you tried to push any sort of message or agenda in movies like those, in movies that are so overtly fictional and over the top that you have to suspend all disbelief while watching them, otherwise they won't hold up to the tiniest bit of scrutiny. And if Hobbs and Shaw were women, especially if they were characters previously established in other films as being badass like Hobbs and Shaw have been, and it really did just focus on the mindless entertainment part and wasn't meant to be anything more than fun, I don't think many people would care or really have anything to say against it. Sure, you'd have some who would assume the worst after seeing the trailer, but after it came out and people saw it and it was just two women kicking ass just for the sake of it, and not to make any sort of real-world point, like all action hero movies were back in the day, no one would care. I mean, when Sarah Connor shows up in the newest Terminator trailer and blows the hell out of the Terminator, no one scoffed or rolled their eyes at it because that's how the character had been established. Terminator 2 didn't have any sort of agenda with the character of Sarah Connor. She was just a woman who knew about a dark future and did whatever she had to do to protect her son, who could hopefully stop it. Though, when I saw this trailer, I did kind of wonder why she isn't living alone on an island somewhere, just wanting to die, why she's continuing to fight after all the hell she's been through, why she hasn't just given up already. I mean, that would be more realistic, right? All kidding aside, my biggest issue with the new Terminator trailer is it just looks like the same thing all over again. A Terminator goes back in time to kill someone before they can become a threat. I mean, there's only so many times or ways you can do that before it just gets really repetitive. Sure, maybe there is much more to the story than that, and likely there is. I mean, the trailer implies humans are being turned into Terminators now, which is cool, I guess, and this is a question I touched on in yesterday's video, but do franchises, even once big ones like Terminator, have a finite shelf life? Is there only so much you can do with a premise before it just gets old? Or is it all about the way the stories are being done now, and that they're failing what they once were? If done right, could Terminator make a return in a big way today? Anyway, simply put, I just didn't care after seeing this trailer, nor am I excited for the movie. And mind you, again, as a child of the 80s and early 90s, I love the first two Terminator movies, and the third one was okay, I guess. There was a lot more to them than your standard action hero movies of the time. They actually had an interesting premise and story, and put some real drama and character depth in there as well. More than movies like, oh, I don't know, let's use A Raw Deal as an example. An Arnold Schwarzenegger movie most of you probably didn't know existed, and the rest of you had likely forgotten existed. And look, unlike the Batwoman trailer where it seems very in-your-face obvious what it's meant to be, I don't know that the Terminator Dark Fate trailer looked straight up like some sort of piece of feminist propaganda. Are there hints and signs in it? Sure, you could say there certainly are. And if that's really what they want to do with this movie, if they really want to push an agenda with an idea as ridiculous as Terminators, which are cyborgs, though technically they're androids, going back in time to kill those who are threats to them in the future, then go ahead and waste your money and make something like that. Because I really don't know who you expect your audience to be exactly. Those of us who grew up in the age of action hero movies, which Terminator could certainly be categorized as, aren't interested in franchises we once loved being repurposed to push an agenda. We watched movies like those back in the day just to be thoroughly entertained by the fantastic and incredible ideas, not to be lectured to about real-world problems. And Star Wars is probably the best example of something many feel has been tainted by an agenda, and many reject new Star Wars today because, right or wrong, they feel it has become all about pushing a feminist agenda. And that's not why they fell in love with the franchise in the first place. Though to be clear, it's not that they're mad women are being given prominent roles. They're mad that it feels like the point of the movies is to give women prominent roles and to make some sort of statement about the real world. And as I've argued before, all they're accomplishing in doing this is creating greater divides in people, not bringing anyone together or fixing the perceived injustices of the world. And here's the real problem with it in a nutshell. If you take something like Star Wars, which has a massive fan base that loves Star Wars for Star Wars, and you try to put a message in there that you feel is very important to you, and that's fine if it is. But then when people reject your movies and say they don't want to hear your message in Star Wars, you're of course going to interpret that as a rejection of the message, instead of what it really is, a rejection of the message being put in the movie. Because let's be honest here, despite what some people want to claim, a vast majority of people today believe in equality for all. And if you don't, well, first of all, that's just sad. And second, I don't think seeing a quote-unquote strong female character in a movie or show is going to change your mind. Nobody who hates women is going to watch Batwoman and say, damn, you know what? I've been wrong about women all this time. They're just as capable as men, if not more so. Nor are they going to see Rey in The Force Awakens and have their worldview completely changed. All it's going to do is take people who maybe like Batwoman or Star Wars for what it is and turn them away from it because it's not that anymore. And as I've said before, don't mistake apathy for objection. Just because someone doesn't want a feminist agenda in a show or movie doesn't mean they don't believe in equality for women. And as I've also said before, if the message has to be inserted into an existing property, that should really say something. If a lot of people were really yearning for more overtly feminist protagonists, you should be able to create and sustain a brand new show with brand new characters. And if you can't get people to watch it without using something they already know and love to lure them in, that again should say something. Because nobody would care if you wanted to make a brand new feminist superhero, which is, of course, the problem. Nobody would care. And look, I'm all for more shows or movies with female protagonists, or putting more women in Star Wars, just to make them great characters within the context of the story. Stop thinking of them as female characters and just think of them as characters. Stop worrying about how they'll be perceived in the real world, and worry about how they'll fit into your imaginary story. Start writing women instead of strong female characters. I mean, think about how bad that actually sounds, because it kind of comes with this implication that a strong female is out of the norm, or that it's unusual for one to be strong, and that it has to be created in the story. Like writing them requires some sort of unique and profound skill because they don't exist in the wild. And I remember at Star Wars Celebration a few years back, the one before The Last Jedi came out, Kathleen Kennedy said of Rian Johnson and why she hired him that he writes amazingly strong female characters. And it was at that very moment that I should have known Episode 8 was doomed. Because strong women are not fictional things or something that must be created. They exist in the real world all around us. And that's fine if you want to celebrate that women can be strong, or if you want to feature their strengths in movies or shows. But just be careful that you don't turn the strong female characters of today into something like the action heroes of yesterday, something that nobody takes seriously. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you thought about the Batwoman and or Terminator Dark Fate trailer, or anything I had to say in this video. Either way, let me know what you think in the comments below, and let's talk some movies. And until next time, thanks for watching.